In 1935, Loretta Young got pregnant on a movie set. She was 22 years old, one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, and the father of her baby was Clark Gable. Clark Gable, the most famous leading man in the world, married, Catholic, untouchable. Loretta knew that if the truth came out, both of their careers would be destroyed. So she made a decision. She disappeared. She gave birth in secret. And then she came back to Hollywood with a story. She told everyone she had adopted a baby girl, a sweet little blonde girl who looked just like her. No one questioned it. Because why would Loretta Young lie? The baby's name was Judy. And Judy grew up believing she was adopted. She believed her real mother had given her away and that Loretta had rescued her. It was not until Judy was 31 years old that she learned the truth. Loretta Young was her mother, and Clark Gable, the man whose movie she had watched her entire life, was her father. Clark Gable never acknowledged her. He died in 1960 without ever publicly admitting she was his daughter. This is the story of how Hollywood protected its biggest stars, and how one woman lived a life for 3 decades. Loretta Young was born Gretchen Young in 1913. She started acting as a child. By the time she was a teenager, she was already a working actress in silent films. And by her early 20s, she was a major star. Beautiful, elegant, devoutly Catholic. The studios marketed her as the girl next door who had made it big. In 1935, Loretta was 22 years old and at the peak of her career. She was making film after film for 20th Century Fox. She was successful. She was famous. And she was single. That was important. Being single in Hollywood in the 1930s meant you had to be careful. One scandal could end your career. Especially if you were a woman. Especially if you were Catholic. And especially if you got pregnant out of wedlock. Loretta knew the rules. She had grown up in the industry. She understood that her image was everything. And then she was cast in a film called The Call of the Wild. Clark Gable was 34 years old in 1935. He was already a massive star, the biggest male lead in Hollywood. Handsome, charming, the kind of actor who could carry a film on charisma alone. He was also married. His second marriage, to a woman named Rhea Langham. But Gable had a reputation. Everyone in Hollywood knew he had affairs. It was not a secret. It was just not talked about publicly. Because Clark Gable was too valuable. MGM, the studio that owned his contract, protected him. They managed the press. They killed stories. They made sure nothing got out that could damage his image. Gable was untouchable, and he knew it. In the early 1935, Gable was loaned out to 20th Century Fox to star in The Call of the Wild. It was a big-budget adventure film set in the Yukon during the gold rush. His co-star was Loretta Young. They were filming on location in Washington State, isolated, away from the press, away from the studios. And that is where it happened. Loretta Young never publicly said that Clark Gable raped her. But years later, after both of them were dead, details emerged that painted a very clear picture. In interviews late in her life, Loretta described what happened as something she did not consent to. She said she was young. She said she did not understand what was happening. She said she was powerless to stop it. Her daughter, Judy, would later say that her mother used the phrase date rape to describe it. That Loretta felt she had been taken advantage of by a much older, much more powerful man. But in 1935, Loretta did not have the language to call it that. And even if she did, it would not have mattered, because Clark Gable was Clark Gable, and Loretta Young was just another actress. So when Loretta realized she was pregnant, she did not go to the studio. She did not go to the police. She did not tell anyone what had really happened. She just tried to figure out how to survive it. Loretta Young disappeared in the summer of 1935. She told the studio she needed a break. She said she was exhausted, that she was going to Europe for a few months to rest. But Loretta did not go to Europe. She went to a house in Venice, California, a house owned by her mother, and she stayed there, hidden, for months. No press, no public appearances, no one could know. On November 6, 1935, Loretta gave birth to a baby girl. The birth was kept secret. There was no hospital record, no public announcement, just Loretta, her mother, and a private doctor. Loretta named her daughter Judy, and then Loretta had to decide what to do. She could not keep the baby and admit the truth. That would have destroyed her career. It would have destroyed Gable's career. And in 1935, an unwed mother was not just scandalous, it was career suicide. So Loretta came up with a plan. She placed Judy in a Catholic orphanage, not permanently, just temporarily, just long enough for Loretta to come back to Hollywood, resume a career, and figure out her next move. And then, a few months later, Loretta made an announcement. She had adopted a baby girl. In the early 1936, Loretta Young returned to Hollywood with the baby. She told everyone the story. She had fallen in love with a little blonde girl at an orphanage. She had decided to adopt her. She was now a single mother, and she was thrilled. The press loved it. Loretta Young, the glamorous star, adopting a child out of the goodness of her heart. It was perfect publicity, and no one questioned it. Why would they? Loretta was devout. She was charitable. Of course, she would adopt a child. But there was a problem. Judy looked exactly like Loretta Young. Same blonde hair, same smile, same features. And as Judy got older, she started to look like someone else too. She had Clark Gable's ears. It was not subtle. Anyone who paid attention could see it. Judy had prominent ears that stuck out, just like Clark Gable. But no one said anything, because in Hollywood, you did not ask questions you did not want answered. Loretta raised Judy as her adopted daughter. She told Judy the story over and over, that Judy's real mother had given her up, that Loretta had chosen her, that Judy was lucky. And Judy believed it, because why would her mother lie? Judy Lewis grew up in Loretta Young's house. She was raised Catholic, strictly. Loretta was obsessive about religion, about propriety, about maintaining appearances. But Judy always felt like something was off. She looked so much like Loretta. People commented on it constantly. And she had those years, the years that kids made fun of, the years that Loretta tried to hide by keeping Judy's hair long. When Judy was a teenager, she started asking questions. Why did she look so much like Loretta? Why did no one know anything about her real mother? Why would her mother give her up if she looked so much like Loretta? Loretta shut down the questions. She told Judy to stop asking, that some things were private, that Judy should be grateful for what she had. So, Judy stopped asking, but she never stopped wondering. And then, in 1966, when Judy was 31 years old, someone finally told her the truth. Judy was married by then. She had her own life, her own family. And one day, a family friend sat her down and told her what everyone in Hollywood had known for decades. Loretta Young was her mother. Clark Gable was her father. The adoption story was a lie. Judy was devastated, not just because she had been lied to for 31 years, but because it explained everything. The way Loretta treated her, the control, the secrecy, the way Loretta never let Judy get too close. Because Loretta was not just her adopted mother, she was her biological mother, and she had spent Judy's entire life pretending otherwise. Judy confronted Loretta, and Loretta admitted it, finally, after 31 years. But she did not apologize. She said she had done what she had to do, that the adoption lie had protected both of them, that Judy should understand why it was necessary. Judy did not understand. She felt betrayed, used, like her entire childhood had been a performance. And she wanted to know about her father. Loretta told her the truth about Clark Gable, but she framed it carefully. She did not say the word rape. She said it was complicated, that Gable had not known about the pregnancy, that he had not wanted to be involved. That last part was a lie. Clark Gable knew about Judy. He had to have known. The timeline was obvious. Loretta disappeared right after they filmed together. She came back with a baby who looked like both of them. Hollywood insiders talked. Everyone knew. And Gable was not stupid. But Gable never acknowledged Judy. Not once. Not privately. Not publicly. He saw her a few times over the years. At Hollywood parties. At events. He knew who she was. And he said nothing. In 1960, Clark Gable died of a heart attack. He was 59 years old. He died a legend, one of the greatest actors in Hollywood history. Beloved, celebrated, mourned by millions. And he died without ever publicly admitting that Judy Lewis was his daughter. Loretta Young lived until 2000. She was 87 years old when she died. She never apologized to Judy for the lie. She maintained until the end that she had done the right thing, that the adoption story had protected everyone. Judy Lewis wrote a memoir in 1994 called Uncommon Knowledge. In it, she told the truth about her parents, about the lie, about growing up as Loretta Young's secret. The book was controversial. Some people praised Judy for telling her story. Others accused her of trying to ruin her mother's legacy. But Judy did not write the book to hurt anyone. She wrote it because she deserved to tell her own story, to own her own identity. Judy Lewis died in 2011 at the age of 76. She spent most of her life not knowing who her father was. And when she finally learned the truth, her father was already dead. This story is about more than Loretta Young and Clark Gable. It is about what Hollywood was willing to do to protect its stars. The lies they told, the people they hurt, the children who grew up not knowing who they were because the truth was too inconvenient. Loretta Young got pregnant. Whether it was rape or coercion or something she could not say no to, it happened because Clark Gable was powerful and she was not. And then she spent 31 years lying to her daughter to protect her own career and to protect Gable. Because that is what women were expected to do in 1935. Absorb the damage, hide the evidence, smile for the cameras. Clark Gable faced no consequences. He kept making movies. He kept his marriage. He kept his reputation. And when he died, he was mourned as a hero. Loretta Young faced the consequences every day for the rest of her life. She raised a daughter she could never fully claim. She carried the weight of the lie until she died. And Judy Lewis, the child who was born out of that lie, spent 31 years not knowing who she was. That is the cost of protecting powerful men. Someone always pays, and it is never them. If you want more stories about the secrets Hollywood borrowed to protect its biggest stars, subscribe. Because the golden age of Hollywood is not as golden as it looked, and the people who suffered were the ones no one was protecting.